Welcome to everyone. Thanks for attending to this launch webinar. The topic of today is WiBranch, our Wi-Fi managed service. Let me introduce the two presenters of the day. First, Arthur, our best and preferred pre-sales engineer who has some special interest for security and network topics. And the second presenter is myself, Nicolas. I'm the product manager in charge of the security and LAN connectivity portfolio within the Destiny organization. What the agenda today? Pretty simple. First, we will have a look on the evolution of the Wi-Fi market and usage. It will be up to me to show you how the market and technology evolved for the last years. And in the second chapter, Arthur will present our WiBranch service. Before we start, I would like just to remind you a few things. First point, you are on mute, and unfortunately, you cannot unmute yourself. So if you have some questions during the presentation, I suggest that you write them down in the chat, and we will try to answer in between two chapters. In any case, at the end, we will have a question and answer session of 5-10 minutes, according to the number of questions. In such case, you can raise your hand and we will unmute you. This webinar is recorded and will be available on internet in few days. Okay, so now let's start and let's have a look on the Wi-Fi landscape. How did Wi-Fi usage evolve for the last years? One noticeable event is the change in the usage intensity. When we used to deploy Wi-Fi 10 years ago, that was mainly to cover some specific areas, such as a meeting room. That was a practical way to connect your laptop to the network. If it didn't work, you could survive. You always had your USB key, you could load your PowerPoint presentation on your laptop, and that made the job. Nowadays, it's totally different. If you are in the meeting room, half of the attendees are remote, and if Wi-Fi doesn't work, you don't have meeting anymore. In addition, nowadays, Wi-Fi becomes the main connectivity solution. Less and less people use wired network to connect client devices. So that means that you need nowadays a Wi-Fi solution which is as reliable as your Ethernet network. Second noticeable event is the guest access. Once more, 10 years ago, the guest access, that was a nice to have feature to welcome your visitors. Nowadays, it's a tool. It's a business and marketing tool. Some of our customers, for example, use it to automate some tasks, typically in a warehouse or in a restaurant, to accelerate the order processing. It's also used by the marketing services to collect consumer behaviors, consumer data, business data. So that's something which is not a nice to have feature anymore. You probably also noticed that the IoT park extended dramatically. So what do we connect now on our Wi-Fi infrastructure? The laptop, of course, your tablets, your smartphones, but also cameras, sensors, smart TV, smart screens, and so on. The point is that 10 years ago, when you designed your Wi-Fi infrastructure, that was probably to optimize the connection of a laptop, but it has not been designed to deal with cheap devices embedded poor Wi-Fi antenna. And an important fact is that 80% of incidents which will occur on a Wi-Fi infrastructure don't come from the infrastructure itself, but from the device because of poor hardware components. Security. What about security and the Wi-Fi security in particular? But of course, it becomes more critical because if 80 or 100% of your user traffic moves to Wi-Fi, it means that this infrastructure must offer the same level of security than your wired infrastructure. And this is not so easy. Wi-Fi is much more exposed because anybody can connect from outside of your building on it. In addition, the previous Wi-Fi standards before Wi-Fi 6 present some vulnerabilities which are unpatchable. Today, a skilled hacker can decrypt your traffic on a Wi-Fi 5 infrastructure. So you need to reinforce the security of the Wi-Fi. Last point, the flexibility. And here I'm talking about the physical flexibility and agility of the companies. Today, because most of the IT resources were moved and centralized on some specific places, I'm talking about applications and servers. Nowadays, they are hosted in public clouds, in private data centers, or in SaaS platforms. It becomes easier to open a new office, close an office, or move them according to your business needs. But if it is easier to do it, you also need a network infrastructure which is easier to roll out from the physical point of view, but also from the configuration point of view. And Wi-Fi is a quite tempting solution to implement such network infrastructure. So what would be an ideal solution today? First, the Wi-Fi infrastructure must offer a high performance. Why? Because you must nowadays offer the same user experience on Wi-Fi than on a wired network. And it's not so easy because of the physical properties of the radio waves. Second feature that we expect from an ideal Wi-Fi solution is the diagnostic capabilities. As I said earlier, 80% of problems will come from the devices, not from the infrastructure. It means that this infrastructure must offer some features which allow you to track devices one by one every minute and for each connectivity event. If you have this kind of visibility, it will allow you to diagnose quickly a potential problem and to increase the user experience. An easy guest access. As I said, Wi-Fi guest access becomes a business tool. So you need a Wi-Fi solution which embeds a user-friendly guest access. And that's nowadays possible with some features such as sponsored guests. Embedded security. Your new infrastructure must enforce the best security standards in terms of encryption and authentication. In addition, we expect from the solution, it can detect external attacks and block them in real time. Last but not least feature that we expect in terms of security is a client isolation. Today on your corporate network, you will probably accept the connection from BYOD devices such as smartphones or tablets. But these ones must have limited access to your resources because, of course, it's not as secured as a corporate laptop. And in addition, you must isolate them from the other Wi-Fi devices. Last point, I talked about physical agility. So we expect from Wi-Fi a zero-touch provisioning capability. That means that in terms of you don't need to pre-stage your hardware. And in terms of configuration rollout, it should be very easy to deploy a new site. That's all about the new Wi-Fi landscape. I will now give the floor to Arthur. Arthur, I don't know if there are some if there are some questions in the chat already or not.
No, right now I've taken a look. I don't see any questions, but if people have any, they can pose them now already,
Okay.
or they can wait until the end of the webinar, of course, where we have the official Q&A session.
In the meantime, I will stop sharing and I will let you present your own screen.
Yes. Here we go. All right, so that should be visible for you people. Okay.
That's okay for me. We can see it.
Yeah, so great. Thanks, Nico, for that first trends and visibility on the market, what we see. So now let's go a bit more in detail about WiBranch, our specific product portfolio, the wireless portfolio we offer or are launching right now. So let's talk a bit more about the technology. First off, which is very important, I think, what we use for this product portfolio is Cisco Meraki, more specifically Cisco Meraki MR, the wireless branch of the Meraki network stack, so to speak. So Meraki, of course, probably by most of you known, is a network-based or a cloud-based networking portfolio from Cisco with a lot of advantages. So one of those is obviously high performance access points. So pure and radio technology, we already start with very qualitative access points with good signal amplification and cleaning of the noise, which also implements technologies that avoid channel conflict, CSMA, CA, for example. And also which supports high density networks with a lot of simultaneous users doing different kind of workflows. So that's very important, of course, and in an office space or a working environment. Next to that, as I told already, it's a cloud managed solution, so it's very important that to know that it offers a very high availability. Of course, all the configuration is stored in the cloud and also restored from that. It's a very intuitive way to work because for the people who already have some experience with the Meraki dashboard, be it for switching, firewalls, or access points already, it's a very intuitive user interface, a single pane of glass to manage your network. So that's a big advantage, of course, to be able to easily manage your own hardware to a certain extent. And also, yes, of course, one of the advantages of a cloud managed solutions, a networking solution, is of course the zero config for maintenance and deployment tasks. It's more or less the click of a button or even automated without too much involvement and manual upgrades access point per access point. That's a thing of the past in our ID. Sponsored guests is, of course, as Nicola told already, a very important thing or a very important part to be able to offer Wi-Fi to your guests in a secure way, but also still in an easy way, so they don't have to faff around too much to just get some internet. Of course, you don't want to delay customers or guests, not too much at least. So there are multiple ways to it. It's an easy way to implement it. One click, so to speak, with different mechanisms. So an email-based mechanism to give up your email address and log in like that, or use Facebook or Google authentication. And there are different ways to do that. It also enables your employees with, for example, BUIOD, of course, so that they can log in with their personal smartphone or their other device that is not work provided or work managed. And last but not least with that, of course, APIs are available with Meraki. There are a lot of APIs, and for this specifically, you can gather a lot of business intelligence and get the data from these access points to see, okay, which guests are logging in, at what point, how much, and you can more or less keep that data and, of course, use it for marketing purposes. It's very important, of course, especially in, for example, a retail environment. Then also we have the quality analytics. So that's very important because your quality needs to be good. As Nicola explained, it's a very important and critical tool of your network nowadays. The most part of the devices will connect to that, and the quality must be good in order to do your job or to be able to serve a good or make a good service. So of course they will the access points, you can manage the signal strength and the noise. It will automatically also configure the correct channels and check the usage and interference if there is any, and do some tweaking if necessary. Also, we'll keep track of the authentication, DNS, DHCP failures, and check the user experience, so to speak, and also provide a clean dashboard look to be able to follow up all these potential failures or problems we are having on the network. And so it does it per device, of course. It's all done via a dedicated antenna on the access points, which is apart from the radio antennas that are used for Wi-Fi. So we have one dedicated hardware antenna that will actually do the signal analysis and constantly scan the network for any failures or potential problems, etc., which is a very important point that not every access point offers in the market these days. Then also we have app performance. So quality of service is a very, very important thing. Nowadays, people use access points for pretty much everything, but some applications you obviously want to give some more priority than other ones. So for example, if I'm talking about anything that is a Teams call like we're doing right now, or more VoIP-based calls, etc. There you want to have some quality of service, so it gets priority, because of course you don't want any delay, latency, jitter on those kind of things. Where then, of course, the less prioritized applications like ML coming in a couple of seconds later, I don't think that's a huge issue for us. So with that performance and the quality of experience or quality of service, you can obviously give some priority then to the necessary things and put the other ones on backlog if necessary. And the last but not least, of course, as Nicola explained already, security is a very important part. Definitely on Wi-Fi, it's an open connectivity platform, open technically at least. So people can connect or try to connect to it in an open way without having to physically connect the cable. So you want to have, of course, a lot of security on that as well. And Meraki offers something they call Wi-Fi Air Marshal, and the Air Marshal will do some security involvements more based on the Wi-Fi specificities. So, for example, rogue APs that are detected, they will automatically contain and block those, so they cannot propagate in the network with that SSID that you are using as well. Also, ad hoc Wi-Fi containments, if some devices make a wireless network peer-to-peer, which is obviously something you do not want in your environment, and also there it can do the same thing and contain and block those networks. And of course, denial of service. If someone wants to try and bring the network down by sending too many requests, of course, that is also filtered and blocked, so that you can still continue to guarantee your Wi-Fi service, that it doesn't go down. Now, more specifically, we have a couple of access point types, of course. So Meraki offers a different amount of types. They are mostly the same, so they use mostly the same hardware, and all the configuration is more or less also the same. But the biggest difference is that some access points are like the MR36 left is for a generic environment, a generic office environment, where you have a normal amount of people working on one access point, so a regular density, for example, up to 30 simultaneous clients per access point, which is already quite a decent amount. But some environments are more high density, more people closer together using the same access point. Then you have more to the right, you have more density focused access points. With an also difference in omnidirectional or specific directional antennas. So, for example, the MR46E is more a directional antenna for maybe big specific meeting rooms where you have to only cover one side and the other side is not covered or covered by another access point. So you want to have more directional signal, or then even outdoor antennas as well. That's also a thing that have to cover a more bigger ground with less interference and objects in the signal, of course, because it's an open space at that point. So it's a bit case by case, but all in all, in the end, they do the same thing, just a bit more specifically aimed for a different environment. Then, of course, this is one of our products. We also have other products, some of which obviously also use Meraki. So, for example, the Destiny SD-WAN service and the Destiny SmartGuard service, which are maybe already known to you. They are also based on Cisco Meraki. They use the Meraki MX firewalls. And obviously, they have a native integration with the wireless products as well, so the MR access points. So you can all use them in the same dashboard. That's already needs to have a single pane of glass and configure your Meraki stack, of course, from the same dashboards instead of having to use different tools and dashboards to manage different network components on your LAN network or even one network. So that's very handy indeed. Next to that, we also have Destiny Secure Mobile Workers. It's a product based on Cisco Umbrella, so it's also the Cisco stack, which also has integrations with Meraki MR, so our Wi-Fi product, but also, of course, with Meraki SD-WAN and the SmartGuard service, which are both based on the Meraki MX firewalls. So these integrations will mostly focus on having a homogeneous security policy that can be used in the network as well by the products. So for example, for the Meraki MR, you can apply a specific Cisco umbrella policy to your access point and even maybe on a specific VLAN basis. So that's things that are definitely possible with that. So they work well together. And this is, of course, just a visual example of how that can connect. So what is our specific offering? Yeah, I talked about the technology, about Meraki MR, which we use. But what is our service? What do we offer with that, of course? So as a first thing, we offer the operational best practices, and that consists mostly of, first, physical and the logical design. So we make a combination of plan-based service, so we can already see which kind of access point is needed, how many are needed to provide good coverage for places that need it. But also even an on-site survey can be used, so to be able to guarantee that the plan-based survey will actually provide good coverage for your environment. So we really want to be sure that that implementation is correct. The physical design is good. Next to that, we also have the logical design, of course, and that is mostly due with channels, band steering, the signal strength, etc., etc. Do we still need a 2.4 gigahertz network? So that are things we'll take into account to make also on that logical topology or logical design, rather, we want to make sure we have the maximum efficiency there as well. So that's a very important part, because if you get that wrong at the base of your project, or your Wi-Fi project, then of course you will keep having troubles down the road. So as I said, the full security setup is something we do as well. And so we take your environment into account and we do the necessary security settings, talking about specific maybe L4 or L7 firewall rules. So that's possible on the MR, either as well on the MX if one is used, but also talking about, of course, about authentication. Do you want the guest access? What is possible with the guest access? Do you want L2 isolation, all devices isolated from each other on a specific VLAN or not? How do I divide my SSIDs, etc., etc.? That's also where we, of course, come in and provide the correct network and configuration setup. Then, of course, the hardware and the software incidents, that's something that always can happen. Let's be honest about that. Things do go wrong from time to time, but it's important to act upon it correctly. So that's something we, of course, want to offer in our managed service pack. So if the hardware goes down within the contract, of course, we just provide a new access point. We configure it, or at least we automatically provide the configuration. That's the advantage of the cloud managed setup. And software incidents as well, of course, as well. If something happens on the software side, we also will solve the problem for you. 24/7 is our SLA. And of course, then all these previous things, they are all combined in one monthly fee covering this whole managed service. So that's a very important one, including these hardware and software incidents and also change management. So for changes, we have also a packet, of course, that we can offer, or at least it's included that we can that we do changes for you if you ask them. It's all complete in the managed service packet, so it's not something that should be built separately. That's very important. So it's a predictable cost solution where you know that you're completely covered and you don't have to have any worries about that. That's a very important one. So maybe to sum it up, WiBranch, what does it do and what does it not do? I think that's an important point to make sure that we have the right context for our product and that you understand where it can be used. So of course, it offers our product offers a centrally managed Wi-Fi infrastructure for your branch offices. I think that was clear already. I hope so, at least. With, of course, for example, things like guest Wi-Fi and up to 3 corporate SSIDs. Standard environments, we don't want to use 10 SSIDs, so we don't think the product is suited for that. And a regular environment should not need it either. So that's our idea. We want to offer secure Wi-Fi, so we want to implement the correct authentication methods, the correct encryption methods, and provide any protection against interceptions, rogue signals, etc., etc. That's a very important part of your business as well. And we want to offer visibility on Wi-Fi quality of service. So we want to make sure that all traffic flows as it should and that it goes smoothly and that the right priorities are set on the network. That's a very important one as well. One thing to give as well, or to explain as well, that while Meraki is very good for the branch office environment, it is not necessarily made for large public infrastructure. And for that, I'm thinking, for example, really a stadium, train stations, airports, etc., maybe very high, big hospitals, these kind of things that are environments where the Meraki product is not always suited. So there we do not offer this service. We try to focus it, of course, on the office environments and some outdoor areas as well, of course. But just to make it clear that it's not used for a very, very, very high density environment like these kind of situations, just to give a heads up. All right. And then we come to the conclusion. And I don't know if in the meantime there are any questions, but I suppose we're coming after the conclusion to a Q&A, so maybe we can wait until then.
Okay, so what could we say as a conclusion? The most important point is that Wi-Fi, step by step, is replacing the wired Ethernet infrastructure for user connectivity, at least. So it is becoming, or it will become in the coming years, your main connectivity solution for your offices. Of course, for everything related to servers, data centers, we will still connect it via cables. But what does it mean concretely? It means that Wi-Fi must offer the same reliability, the same security level, and the same user experience than a wired network. And this is challenging. It is challenging because of the radio properties. When you have to deploy a switch and routers, you mainly think about the TCP/IP topology. With Wi-Fi, you must also take into consideration the physical topology. And that's why WiBranch is not only based on a physical infrastructure, it's not only based on Meraki technology, it's also a service. And we take care, in particular, of the physical design and all operations related to troubleshooting. For the physical design, we always conduct on-premise and predictive site surveys. We want to be sure that the physical location of your access points allow to achieve your goals in terms of application usage. And of course, because no technology can prevent all issues, we need to have some people in our support team, and that's the case. We certified some people with some internationally recognized certifications. We need people which are able to interpret the diagnostic data in the Meraki dashboard to pinpoint where does come from the problem, in particular when it comes from a specific or a set of specific devices. So that's the goal of WiBranch today. And that will be all for my conclusion. So I think that we can move to the Q&A session if there are some questions. I must check the chats. You can also raise your hand. I don't think there are some questions. In such case, just let me remind you that in few days, you will receive an email with the link to download the recorded session. In the meantime, I just have to wish you a good day and hope that in the coming weeks or months, we will be able to talk about some Wi-Fi projects. Goodbye, everyone. This is now the end of the session. Bye-bye.